silence of the house that first night was a heavy, fragile thing, a blanket of fear and liberation all at once. My son Leo, then 6, lay asleep in the borrowed travel crib, his small chest rising and falling rhythmically, oblivious to the seismic shift that had just occurred in his young life. I sat on the floor, back against the wall of the furnished 2-bedroom apartment, a rushed lease signed after a desperate hour of searching, and stared out the window at the unfamiliar cityscape. A year ago, I was planning a dinosaur-themed party. Tonight, I was celebrating freedom with the metallic tang of instant coffee. It's just a party. My mother's voice, cold and final, had echoed in my mind, a ghost of the evening's confrontation. Your brother's kids felt left out. Don't make such a fuss. Just wait till the family is together again. No, Mom, I had whispered to the empty room as the U-Haul trailer was being loaded. It's about making my son feel special. It's about a mother's right to celebrate her child without it becoming a negotiation of worth. A year passed, not smoothly, but with a vibrant sense of purpose. We had found our rhythm. I took on extra freelance work. Leo started a new school where he wasn't constantly shadowed by the golden grandsons, my brother's children, who had been elevated to near mythical status by my parents. This year, Leo's 7th birthday was planned with quiet, unadulterated joy. No grand hall, no catered food, just a backyard bouncy castle, a piñata shaped like a space shuttle, and 6 of his closest new friends. I had spent weeks crafting the perfect rocket ship cake. Not store-bought, but a slightly lopsided labor of love. Dusted with edible glitter, the day was everything a birthday should be. Loud, messy, and overflowing with genuine happiness. Leo's laugh was a bell-clear sound I hadn't realized had been muffled for years. When he opened the main gift, a sophisticated, build-it-yourself telescope, his eyes glowed with wonder. Best birthday ever, Mama, he sighed later, covered in frosting and exhausted, clutching the telescope box. That was the moment I realized what had been missing. Unconditional celebration. No need to check if cousins were getting a proportionally better gift. No obligation to diminish the joy so others wouldn't feel less special. It was his moment, fully and completely. Our new apartment complex backed onto a large manicured park. The day after the party, a warm Saturday, Leo and I were setting up his new telescope tripod in the park's open field, eagerly anticipating the evening stars. It was then I saw them standing near the perimeter, watching us with a mixture of curiosity and a vague, unsettling resentment were my 2 brothers, Mark and David, and their sons. My nephews, Ethan and Alex, Mark's older boys, and Sam, David's single, doted upon child, were the golden grandsons. They were always dressed in the newest gear, always held the center stage at family events, and I noticed with a pang, they looked bored. They had been pulled along to the park by their fathers, likely for a quality family outing that felt more like an obligation than a pleasure. Ethan, the eldest and usually the most condescending, looked at our slightly worn picnic blanket and simple, expensive telescope with a flicker of confusion. Leo, completely engrossed, didn't notice them at first. He was fiddling with the focus, his tongue poking out in concentration. Look, Mama, I see a bug on the grass super-duper big. I gave a small forced wave to my brothers. They nodded back, faces stiff. The gulf of a year, built on my mother's harsh words and our silent departure, was now physically manifesting in the distance between our 2 family units. Suddenly, Sam, David's son, broke away from his father's side. He was the youngest, always clad in miniature designer sportswear and often the most demanding. He walked slowly toward us, drawn by the novelty of the silver telescope. "What's that?" he asked Leo, his tone less demanding than usual, more genuinely curious. Leo looked up, a bright, friendly smile instantly lighting his face. He hadn't yet learned to associate his cousins with negativity. "It's a telescope. I got it for my birthday. It can look at the moon and Jupiter." The other 2 boys, Ethan and Alex, soon followed, their fathers trailing a few steps behind, their expressions darkening like a summer storm. The sight of Leo's unbridled enthusiasm, his ownership of an interesting grown-up toy, was a stark contrast to their own demeanor. They had all the latest gaming consoles and expensive sports equipment, but they lacked the story of earning, the story of focused, personal interest. "Wow," Ethan admitted grudgingly. "Let me see." The crushing weight of envy for the next half hour, the golden grandsons were captivated. Leo, a natural-born educator, patiently explained how the finder scope worked, how to adjust the mirror, and how, last night, he'd seen a star that looked like a diamond chip. My brothers watched, their eyes flicking between the rapt attention of their sons and the small independent unit Leo and I had become. The meltdown, when it came, was not from the children but from the fathers. Mark was the first to crack. "David, are you going to let them monopolize that thing?" "Come on, boys. We have the new laser tag set we promised you." His voice was strained, too loud. He was trying to reassert the usual order, the hierarchy where the golden grandsons had the better things. But the boys didn't move. They were tired of the better things. They wanted the genuine, unforced fun they saw happening right in front of them. Sam pointed. "Dad, Leo said he saw a planet." "You said we could see a planet." David's face, usually placid and self-satisfied, went crimson. The sight of his son preferring a birthday gift purchased by the family pariah over his own offerings was a profound public humiliation. He took a single angry step toward me. "You," he spat, ignoring the children. "You did this. You took him away, made him think he's better than everyone else. This is why Mom had to stop the party. You make too much of everything." I stood up, planting myself between him and Leo, who now looked confused and a little scared. My voice was low and firm, a new, stronger tone forged in the crucible of that year of independence. "No, David. I didn't make him think he's better. I just didn't teach him to think he was less. He's happy. He's celebrating his life, and that's not a competition. You're jealous of a 7-year-old's happiness because it proves you don't need a huge, controlling family structure to be successful." The word jealous hung in the air, a bell tolling the end of the old world. It wasn't the children's envy that mattered. It was the shattering, incandescent jealousy of the adults, the brothers who had always won, always been the favorites, who suddenly saw that the true prize, unadulterated joy, belonged to the one they had cast out. Mark lunged for the telescope stand. "We're leaving now." He didn't mean to, but his movement was forceful enough to catch the tripod's leg. The telescope, the symbol of Leo's independent, joyous year, crashed to the grass. A terrible, wounded silence fell. The golden grandsons stared, horrified, not at the broken toy but at the raw, ugly violence erupting from their fathers. Leo let out a single, heart-wrenching sob. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I looked at Mark's panicked, ashamed face, then at David, whose jaw was slack with shock at his brother's action. "You've broken more than just a telescope. Mark," I said, my voice cutting through the quiet. "You've broken the illusion that kept this family together. You proved my mother right to try and silence us because she knew deep down that genuine happiness in someone else's child would always be a threat to your fragile pride." I knelt, wrapping a protective arm around Leo, and started gently assessing the damage to the telescope. The brothers and their sons stood frozen, a statue of their own internalized conflict. They had come to gloat, perhaps to subtly belittle, but they left with the undeniable bitter taste of defeat. They left because they could not stand the sight of a genuinely happy child, a happiness that their own privilege and favoritism had failed to buy them. The aftermath and the new horizon. The family was shattered, just as you predicted. The news of the park incident, Mark's jealous outburst, the broken telescope, flew through the network of aunts and cousins. My mother called not to apologize but to admonish me for making a scene, for exposing the family's fault lines in public. It was a private matter, she insisted. "It stopped being private, Mom," I countered calmly. "The night you told me my son's happiness was secondary to the comfort of your golden grandsons, that conversation was the final, clean break. The telescope was fixable mostly. The crack in the family was not. But the true gift of that year and of that heartbreaking scene in the park was the clear vision it gave Leo and me. We were an island, yes, but we were an island with its own sun and its own horizon." A week later, Leo and I were back in the park, the telescope repaired and functioning. As the sun dipped, painting the sky in fiery colors, Leo turned to me. "Mama?" he asked, the question small and serious. "Are Ethan and Alex going to be okay?" I smiled, a bittersweet smile. "I hope so, sweetie. But their okay is not our responsibility. Our job is to be okay together." He looked through the eyepiece, adjusting the focus on the now visible pinprick of Jupiter. "It's so big, Mama," he whispered, a pure, happy wonder in his voice, and we can see it all by ourselves. The truth was laid bare. The family had crumbled not because of my son's celebration, but because my independence and Leo's simple, honest joy illuminated the emptiness at the core of their privileged, controlled existence. We had moved out that night not to run away, but to find a space where we could finally truly see the stars.